Everything you're about to see comes from U.S. government documents. April 16, 2013. North Korea's first satellite passes over the Washington, D.C. New York City corridor. Its orbit, looping from south to north, evades early warning radar. A U.S. congressional committee discloses, if it contains a nuclear warhead, it's at the optimum altitude and location for an electromagnetic pulse over the mainland, one that would threaten the eastern power grid, likely knocking out 75% of American electricity. But the bomb didn't go off. On that same day, though, something did happen 3,000 miles to the west. Just after midnight, an unknown individual broke into an underground vault outside San Jose, California, and cut telephone cables. Soon after, surveillance footage at a nearby electrical substation shows sniper fire targeted key transformers. The site is a link to power in Silicon Valley and the Western grid. For 19 minutes they fired, and a minute before police arrived, they fled. It took workers 27 days to repair the substation. A blackout of Silicon Valley infrastructure was avoided only after power was rerouted around the site. These were not amateurs taking potshots, a Pacific Gas and Electric executive said. This was a dress rehearsal. County sheriffs reported a month before a man dressed in black was seen in a nearby field, prompting a search that came up empty. Fast forward 3 months. The North Korean freighter Changchungang travels through the Gulf of Mexico with 50-year-old Soviet surface-to-air missiles mounted on their launchers under bags of sugar. Officials found them only after the freighter was returning to North Korea through the Panama Canal. The missiles weren't nuclear, but they were designed to deliver a 10-kiloton warhead, something the Congressional EMP Commission calls a nightmare scenario, since such an attack could be anonymous. So, what are EMPs? Why has the Department of Homeland Security been more focused on them in the last 24 months? We cover unknown declassified files. Subscribe to join us. EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse. When a nuclear weapon is detonated at least 40 miles above the surface, it interacts with the Earth's magnetic field in such a way that a stronger blast of electromagnetic energy is produced. This pulse can damage or destroy modern technology. In the first few microseconds, individual electronic devices are affected, followed by telecommunications. Within a few minutes, power transformers and power lines are hit. In 2008, a report to Congress ruled any power grid within range would fail with near certainty. How big is the pulse radius? If even a low-yield Hiroshima-sized bomb was detonated at the right altitude, it would generate a field strong enough to destroy all civilian systems save Miami and parts of New England. The pulse would be a few kilovolts per meter, enough to fry unshielded technology. Military systems? They'd be safe. But what about something the House Armed Services Committee called a super EMP? How bad would that be? In 2004, Russian generals familiar with post-Soviet weapons disclosed the country had an EMP capable of 200 kilovolts per meter at the center and 50 to 100 at the edges. They said the design accidentally leaked to North Korea and could fit inside an artillery shell weighing less than 100 pounds. Small and light enough to fit inside a satellite. U.S. officials later had the following exchange about a super EMP. So, we aren't sure that much of our military would still be operable after that robust laydown. Is that correct? I also understand we aren't certain we could launch our intercontinental ballistic missiles. We designed both the missiles and their bases and the strategic communication systems during the Cold War to be able to survive and operate through EMP fields of 50 kilovolts per meter, which was our concern at the time, before we realized that weapons could be designed that had larger EMP fields. Another exchange. Super EMPs are about what, 4 times higher than anything we ever built or tested to in terms of EMP hardening? Yes. Is this just fear-mongering? Are there actual attack scenarios experts think are possible? This is a report delivered to the Congressional EMP Commission 3 years ago. Its author is Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, a former intel officer with the CIA. He sees 5 plausible scenarios for EMP attacks against North America. Scenario 1. Russia strikes Canada. The U.S. retaliates with long-range conventional bomber and cruise missile strikes for Russian aggression against European NATO. So Russia makes an EMP warning shot against Canada that also damages U.S. early warning radars and national missile defenses in Alaska, hoping the U.S. will de-escalate and stop fighting. A 2015 paper from a top Russian research institute called an EMP the most effective cyber weapon. In '99, senior Russian officials threatened a U.S. congressional delegation with an EMP if they didn't stop bombing Serbia. Pry fears any modern scenario would have higher stakes, adding that President Vladimir Putin is the X factor. Still humiliated by the Cold War, he cannot lose again. If he retreats following attempted unification of the former Soviet republics, he may face a coup, revolution, or assassination. Scenario 2. China strikes the U.S. Amidst an escalating conflict with the U.S. over Taiwan in the South China Sea, China makes an EMP attack, blacking out the mainland's 48 states, hoping to knock the U.S. out of the war. In 2016, China's National Security Policy Committee called electromagnetic pulse bombs among the disruptive technologies that can change the rules of the game. A Chinese state newspaper added the following: "A highly computerized open society like the U.S. is extremely vulnerable to electronic attacks from all sides." The point is that an EMP is viewed as a first strike option, not something on the fringes of military strategy. Taiwanese intelligence believes China has a super EMP weapon, and even in a regional conflict, thinks the country considers it the key to victory against U.S. aircraft carriers. In 2018, the DoD's Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering stated China was close to deploying hypersonic missiles capable of traveling 5 times the speed of sound. These skim the upper atmosphere, fly unpredictably, and are capable of EMP. "We do not have defenses against these systems," he warned. Scenario 3. Iran strikes the United States. The former Obama administration is wrong, and critics are right, that Iran already has nuclear-armed missiles and can make an EMP attack against the U.S. by satellite. In 2010, the Defense Intelligence Agency translated an Iranian textbook that says coordinated EMP detonations are the revolutionary new way of warfare. Former CIA Director James Woolsey notes EMP is considered the most religiously acceptable weapon in some circles, as it doesn't kill directly, but exposes Western society for its overdependence on modern technology. Scenario 4. Al-Qaeda or another terror cell strikes the United States. North Korea or Iran provides Al-Qaeda with a nuclear-armed short or medium-range missile in a freighter to make a nuclear EMP attack by proxy to eliminate the U.S. as an actor on the world stage. This could apply to other rogue groups too. We've seen how easy it is to enter the Gulf of Mexico with smuggled rocket launchers. And finally, Scenario 5. North Korea strikes Texas. North Korea makes an EMP attack using a Scud missile launched from a freighter to black out the Texas electric grid as a warning shot for the U.S. In 2013, a state paper published a photo with plans to strike the U.S. visible in the background. One hypothetical trajectory is from North Korea to Austin, Texas. Not pictured is a much shorter and more reasonable, by U.S. intelligence estimates, trajectory from the Gulf to Texas. We've now talked about attack scenarios, but how exactly would an attack propagate? The obvious victim is electricity itself. A 2008 congressional committee report stated the existing U.S. grid operates near capacity limits. A modest upset to the system can cause functional collapse. All 3 phases of the grid are exposed in an EMP. Generation. Power plants built in the last 2 decades have microprocessors and electronic sensors that would fail when hit by a pulse. Transmission. Power travels through lines and substations to homes and businesses. A 1989 solar storm, orders of magnitude smaller than an EMP, knocked out power in England and North America. Magnetic fluctuations damaged transformer cores. A power plant in New Jersey would have been down for a year, but luckily there was a replacement transformer nearby. It's unclear how many backup transformers the US has. We couldn't find a count. But the Federal Energy Regulation Commission claims if just 9 of the 55,000 substations in key locations were destroyed and 1 transformer manufacturer was disabled, the entire US grid would be down for at least 18 months, probably longer. The Department of Energy explains production of transformers can take 5 months just to secure the raw materials and more to manufacture, and their weight, over 200 tons, requires specialized rail cars to transport. In 2017, they wrote that establishing a federal transformer reserve would be costly, $200 to $700 million. A plan has been kicked around the House as a part of a broader infrastructure bill, but at our time of publishing, it is yet to pass. If there's no power, there are no systems that process, package, and distribute food. Agriculture requires power for irrigation, and farm equipment requires gas that requires power to be transported. An EMP would prevent food processing facilities from working, and preservation would be impossible without refrigeration. The typical supermarket needs resupply every 1 to 3 days. Distribution of food to supermarkets may be the weakest link after an EMP, according to experts. In 2002, Hurricane Lily collapsed Louisiana food infrastructure, forcing food to be shipped from Texas and Mississippi. But what happens when storage fails everywhere at the same time? One imagines using generators to power production of essential foods would be an immediate priority for the government. But will we be able to feed 330 million people? That hasn't been analyzed as far as we can tell. North Carolina has an EMP response plan, but it's private due to sensitive information. We aren't aware of a national food response plan. Water may be an even bigger issue. Early water infrastructure relied on gravity, but the invention of the electric water pump last century changed that. Today, electricity powers pumps, valves, and filters designed to purify and deliver water to homes. The Congressional EMP Committee admits little analysis has been done on this risk, but it's concerning. 75% of the U.S. population gets water from 15% of the systems, creating chokeholds in urban areas that, if they fail, cut off water for large geographic areas. But there is a silver lining: transportation. Sci-fi usually paints a picture of cars failing on the freeway and planes falling out of the sky. But a real EMP wouldn't cause that. A bipartisan group of experts tested 37 cars of varying ages. Newer models had up to 100 microprocessors, but regulations required they're better shielded. None of the cars were affected by the pulse if their engines were off. When turned on, just 3 of the 37 experienced motor failure. In a real scenario, these would have glided to a stop and simply required a restart. They did not fail permanently. It's expected trucks would also survive. But the group had a dimmer outlook for railroads. They found the majority of railroad control centers would fail in a super EMP, and without that, train orders that defined what gets carried where cease. With no orders, train yards must operate manually at less capacity. Transporting food, water treatment chemicals, and coal to power plants would be top priorities, but trains would only be able to operate at 10 to 20% normal capacity for the first week or two after an EMP. The study also met with Boeing. The general conclusion is most, if not all, commercial aircraft have enough redundancies to stay airborne. For example, digital flight controls are backed up by analog. Manufacturers also shield electrical cables with EM interference in mind. The bigger concern is radar would fail across large areas, forcing planes to rely on towers to land. With 5,000 planes above the U.S. at any given moment, there may be mistakes made. What about the fuel that powers these vehicles? An entire video could be made on the dangers oil and gas faces. Refining and delivery would be prioritized after an attack, likely to key military facilities. But refineries, transportation systems, and point-of-sale stations all require electricity. Without computer controls, loss of pressure could occur in some areas, leading to loss of service in entire regions. Hoarding would also probably be an issue, though we haven't found a report discussing this. How reliable fuel delivery is ultimately a major unknown. If this crisis happens, would you be able to call your loved ones or coordinate with people you know to make a plan? That seems to be another issue. Elevated call volume after September 11th rose 12 times above normal, taxing cell networks. 92% of calls didn't go through. Recent studies suggest a portion of calls would continue to go through after an EMP and increase as call volume dropped after the event. But cell towers run on electricity, and many have battery or generator backup for only several days. Beyond that, networks would fail as backups fail, and there's no federal requirement for towers to even have backups. This is hardly an exhaustive list. Banking, emergency services, satellites are other areas of concern. But the point is this: an EMP attack is a risk that, for some reason, doesn't really hit mainstream consciousness too often. Awareness drastically lags the risk. When multiple countries state it is the way they'd attack the US, this shouldn't be on the margins when we consider what a future war looks like. A 2019 executive order asked the federal government to improve the country's ability to recover from an attack. It ordered the Department of Homeland Security to assess critical infrastructure and create a list. It also ordered the Department of Energy to work with Homeland, the DoD, and the private sector to submit a bi-yearly report on the options available to improve resilience. Don't get us wrong, government awareness is important. But we'd like to see more concrete actions taken to develop a strategic transformer reserve and a coordinated plan with sign-off from all mainland states over which services will be prioritized in a recovery. We're not trying to alarm you. And if an EMP does happen, treat others with kindness. Work together with your neighbors to make sure critical services in your area continue peacefully. A 2017 report suggests this may be more likely during political uncertainty. For some reason, not many are talking about this. And again, it's not our intent to fearmonger, but make sure you're aware of this information. So don't panic, but be aware. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks to our patrons, including Joel Alexander. If you want to support our weekly episodes, consider joining us on Patreon. We'd also appreciate it if you share this video with your friends and family. Thanks guys, see you next time.